Hello and welcome to the Counselor Complete OMS tutorial on creating and managing your address labels. We're going to begin here in the dashboard screen. I'm going to scroll down to a few of the widgets here to show you where you can directly create address labels right from the widgets. So let's take here, for example, the device service plan expiration. When we look at the center envelope icon, that is for downloading address labels. Same thing for this. Just to show you what that looks like, I'm going to go ahead and click on the option there, and that will then bring up the document that we can print off onto our address labels. Now, what you're probably thinking is, well, my address labels may not fit this formatting. Well, we have a feature built in, which I'll show you in just a moment, that lets you configure this page to match whatever type of label you're using. But before we get to that, I want to show you just a few more places where this occurs, and then we're going to look at the setup. So as I mentioned, this occurs throughout several widgets. This also is available, for example, if you were to do an active patient search. The results of that patient search, you could then print labels from there. Same thing for visit activity through the business report generators as well. So if you searched and let's say found all the patients that had devices that are older than 4 years old and lived in a certain zip code, you could then take that list and drop that into a document where you could print off as address labels. So and I should mention that if the patient has do not mail checked within their profile, they'll automatically be removed from the list. So you don't have to worry. You have to go through and check those. Counselor's already going to check those. If the patient has multiple addresses in place within their profile, it will print off a label for each address. So basically, whatever's reflected in that patient's profile is going to be displayed then on the output, essentially what you can use then to print your labels. So as I mentioned, there are several places to access the labels, but very importantly, we want to make sure they're set up appropriately. So under the administration drop down in the top menu bar, we're going to go ahead and select address label options. Now, this is designed to really give you a great deal of flexibility as to how you set up the template essentially. So what you do first off is you look at the address label that you have and go ahead and put in the number of rows and the number of columns. Okay, that will set the initial stage. One of the quick decisions you can make, and you can decide if you want to have the patient's title displayed. That one, of course, you could jump back and forth at any time based on the mailing. But these settings you'll want to get in place because oftentimes you have a stack of labels you've purchased or blank labels you've purchased. We want to make sure that they all go through well. So ultimately what's going to happen then is once you have your settings, you'd go back to the dashboard and do a test. So bring open the address labels as I showed you. You can either print that out directly on the labels, or some people will use like scratch paper and then we'll print out a test page and then lay that over so you're not necessarily printing on the labels right away. The key is to get everything lined up because as you may have noticed, even when you use one template, one type of labels, when you print that on multiple printers, it'll print different ways. So in order to accommodate for that, if let's say, for example, this matched your needs, but you found that the labels were printing a little bit too far to the left or a little too far to the right or a little too high up on the label, you can just modify that. So you then increase the margins. Okay, and this, for example, changing the top margin would then push the text downward. Okay, or if you needed to push it a little farther to the right, you would go ahead and bump up the left margin. Okay, so you can do that in small increments. You can do it in medium-sized increments, whatever you think would be appropriate, and just run another test page until you find a combination that fits perfectly with the labels that you're using. As long as you keep using those labels, you shouldn't have to update these. I should say, as long as you're using the same labels in the same printer, you very likely will not need to update these. So as you're going through this, if you have any questions, please let us know. We're always happy to help. We hope this can be a very flexible feature for you that will let you set up the label specifically for your labels you already have and the printer you use, and then also give you quick access to those labels across the system. So thank you very much for joining us for the Counselor Complete OMS tutorial on for creating and managing address labels.